Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Just gonna let people roll in quickly while I make sure everything's all set up here and you guys can hear me loud and clear. I'm just gonna ramble on in the meantime before I give a little presentation today. So yeah, how's it going, guys? It's been a couple of weeks actually since I've done a truth or therapy sessions. I've had to sacrifice my Sundays to do podcasts on other people's shows instead. I believe. Well, who was it? Who did I have last week? Last week I was on By Their Fruits podcast, which was a fun one. They were kind enough to let me record that live and stream it straight to my channel here. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. And who else was I on with last week? Let me just quickly check here. So who have I got? Who have I got? Live shows. Looks like I was on the Ravens Watch podcast as well a few days ago. And yeah, a lot's been going on since then. Obviously, I was also on the Tinfoil Hat podcast, which I'm sure many of the new people listening today will probably already be aware of. Um, Sorry, guys, I've just suddenly looked and realised that my ad suitability for this video has already been taken away from me, and I've only just started. Um, Yeah, I've literally only just started talking about, or just, well, this thing has only just gone live, so I don't know why that's happened. But I've just put in a manual request then to see what happens. But that's pretty annoying. There you go, off to a good start already. Clearly, they don't want me talking about the topic of cloning. I'm guessing is the reason that's happened. Who knows? All I was going to do is talk a little bit about that, read some comments and people's reactions to my recent video about the subject, and also talk about iPet Goat and the disappearance of that video as well from the creator's channel and his website going down, and see some of your guys' reactions to that as well. And then I was going to do a bit of a book reading from just a chapter I've been working on currently. It's a long one about the origin of the clown, and it's been an interesting journey. I've been piecing a few things together, and I thought I'd share it with you guys as well. But that's pretty annoying. The monetization gone already for this one video. Unbelievable. But yeah, I've put in a request on that immediately, so let's see what happens. But no doubt it'll be approved tomorrow morning when it doesn't matter and all the views have been gone. That's usually how it always goes on this. But let me just quickly check in the chat. Let's see who we've got here with us right now. What have we got? Eden Lloyd, thanks for being here. This should be a doozy. Bring it on. Well, maybe I've like I said, I've not actually done one of these in a couple of weeks, so I'm a bit out of practice with live shows on my end. I'm not going to lie. And this is usually a quite relaxed format. We just have a bit of a chat here to get today, guys. Catch up and see what you guys have been researching as well. Got Moon Mimi, thanks for being here. Wendy, thanks for being here. Hi, Margaret. Always a pleasure. We've got Slow Burn One. Good afternoon. Um, Humble Stranger, thanks for being here. We've got the usual crew. We've got Ride the Liger. I still got the ads. Well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, it may not be suitable for ads for me to make any profit, but they'll still run the ads anyway, of course. That's how it always works. They probably don't like something in the title. Yeah, well, it's got to be cloning, right? Is it just the word cloning? Are they just against that idea? It must be that. I don't know why cloning, the word cloning itself is too far. I mean, what's the big deal? They talk about it all the time, don't they, in the mainstream media? You know, it's no secret that they've cloned a sheep. Surely it's not. Is it wrong to talk about this subject? I don't know. What a shame. My lovely wife is there too. Uh, no petsy goat. Lucas Williams, thanks for being here. Right, so yeah, guys. So let's see who we've got in terms of numbers. What are our stats currently? We've got 20 people here. That's a good number. Still growing as well, which is wonderful. Um, yeah, I've worked really hard on this thumbnail as well. It's a shame. No, but like I said, I've recently released a video, basically just one of my Remember episodes where I've recapped the cloning centers theory, based on all the words and of Donald Marshall. Basically, that's where it all comes from, essentially. And there was a few celebrities here and there who brought it up themselves. I think was it Bob was one of them, and Tila Tequila, if I remember correctly, brought something up about it. But obviously they were quickly shut down, apparently. Which is just an interesting concept, that all these celebrities go there and kind of end up trapped there, is what it seems, and they can't really get themselves out of it once they've seen it. They're not really allowed, and then it usually either they get killed, silenced in some way, or tortured, or sentenced to a life of misery, being constantly waking up in these cloning centers to be tortured. What a terrifying theory. But Donald Marshall actually, he's still around. I found his group on Facebook, and that's where he was posting most of his stuff, from what I can tell. Though he hasn't really posted anything since December 3rd, 2022. Um, and yeah, some of the stuff he's been posting on here is pretty wild. I mean, I'll just share the screen with you and share with you a few of his recent posts so you can get a gist of the type of stories he tells. Let's just get this up. Share the screen there. And let's bring this on. Yeah, so this is his Facebook page. And he's posting relatively regularly on here. He has his usual Megadeth album cover profile picture. He claims that this is him here. This is one of his clones. And obviously, he also claims they use him quite a lot, musicians in the cloning centers, to write the lyrics for their songs and give them ideas and all sorts of things. Yeah, pretty messed up stuff. So you read through some of these, and he's posting things about the royal family, and it's basically how they torture him. I'll let you pause the video and read these. I don't want to read them out loud myself, to be honest. Just again for obvious reasons. Um, but it's basically like he says that the royal family runs these places essentially. Um, but yeah, just read through it. If you didn't realize this, you can go find it and join him. I think it's like 20,000 followers on here, and he just shares some interesting little tidbits and snippets about um, one-to-one experiences with certain famous people, and his interactions with them within these secret underground bases, basically. This one here about Robin Williams is quite interesting too, but again, I can't really, I don't think I can really read these. No, not without risking losing everything. But I would definitely ask you to go and check them out yourself. Um, but yeah, it's good to know he's still around and kicking anyway, Donald Marshall. Someone recommended I reach out to him and try and get him on my own channel for an interview, but again, that's not really where my work is leading me right now, so it's probably best I don't really delve too deep into this just yet. But it is an interesting topic nonetheless, and it was interesting to bring up in the Remember series. So if I just quickly go to some of my video comments here on that particular video. So where is it here? Cloning centers. There we go. Yeah, so let's just read some of the people's comments so we can see what they actually said about it. We'll do top comments, that's fine. That's just about technology. Interesting comment nonetheless. Someone here saying, I remember the news talking about cloning a sheep named Dolly. Yeah, and it's like the concept of cloning has been around for a long time. This is not a new thing, and like I hinted at in the video, once they talk about it publicly, they're probably only showing you a glimpse of the capabilities they actually have by that point. Because there was some things in that Donald Marshall video and this video that I didn't actually cover. It's such a vast subject, and Donald himself covers so many topics. It's unbelievable, to be honest. If I go here and I just switch to the slideshow I've got on cloning. One of these here breaks down a lot of the information he shared. Yeah, this one here, so you can see Donald Marshall's talking points. I'm just going to make this actually so it fits the screen. 1 second. I hadn't formatted it properly before I did this. Right, so let's go back and check out this. So these are some of the talking points that I didn't get a chance to cover, we talked about RAM consciousness transfer. So this idea, that once you have been kind of DNA stolen by them and they've got you on their records, they can kind of get you then. All they need is your blood, basically. And then once you fall asleep, they can transfer your consciousness to one of their vessels in their underground bases. So that's a creepy talking point in its own right. And there's this form of like artificial telepathy they can do where they can communicate with you from the cloning centers. Because once they've got a copy of you, you're kind of connected, which is kind of strange. I'm not even sure what Project Muffin is about, but that sounds terrifying. There's different clone types, there's variations of clones they can make, sizes and shapes and deformities and abilities and ability to not feel pain and all sorts of things like that. It's really trippy. The whole Vril stuff as well. I mean, I just touched on that in my other video. But there's this concept. There's like 3 levels of these beings under there, like different types, or with different that come from different depths of the earth, and they all come up into these underground bunkers and kind of chill with the humans and teach them things and swap information, and the governments are kind of just complicit with them. It's kind of they work together and they allow themselves to be possessed by them, and these clones that people make basically get inhabited by these vril entities on the consciousness of the vril. And the way he says they do it is that they have this thing on their forehead that kind of comes out, and then once it leaves the body, they die. But everything about them is on this thing that comes out of their forehead, and this thing then goes into the eyeball of one of their victims and becomes that body, takes over completely. So that's another really trippy concept, that comes with all this theory. What if we can bring it back in? What else was on that list? The Awakening, Project Camelot, Nostradamus prophecies. Yeah, he talks about some very strange things towards the end. So quite relatively new age stuff, I'd say. That's kind of his take on it all. That it's all kind of a new age angle. So that's where I kind of obviously veer off a little bit from what he's talking about. But I'm not here to say what the guy should and shouldn't believe in terms of religious worldviews. But that's kind of his perspective and where he comes at it all from. So fair enough. But I don't know. This is just a really trippy one, And people seem to like the video and people really want to talk about it more. Um, and there was this thing like you can see here on the screen now that I saw a couple of YouTubers kind of doing what I did, doing a recap of all of his work. But at the end, they were kind of saying, he's basically crazy and he's just making it all up because he suffered some kind of trauma, from his parents abusing him. And I just thought that was so slimy of them. It's kind of, I don't know, that argument kind of gets used against conspiracy theorists quite a lot, just to instantly dismiss anything they have to say. And I'm an open-minded individual, and I will listen to people. And I don't know. I think there's some truth to what Donald's saying. I don't think he's just made it all up in his mind to cope with the traumatic abuse he suffered as a child from his parents. I think he's telling the truth. He's quite consistent with what he's saying. He seems to repeat his points and doesn't veer away from his narrative or his story. But there are quite a few people, through the Facebook group I was reading who really don't like him and really do believe he's just making it all up and go heavy at him and just basically say he's a paid agent shill to muddy the waters on the topic of cloning, basically. Which again is an interesting thought. Maybe that is true. Maybe he is just a paid agent there to mix the truth with lies. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Um, Oh, would you look at that? They've monetized this video again, guys. We've won. Beat the system. All I had to do was just ask for a review, and instantly I'm back on. I'm back. There we go. But it's interesting because if you're just tuning in, guys, as soon as I started this live stream, it was telling me it was not suitable for ads immediately before I'd even started speaking. So I put an instant request in and it looks like I've just been approved instantly as well. So that's it's telling you something that they keep immediately demonetizing my live shows, like immediately, before, like I said, before I have a chance to even speak, or for the even no, because I know how this works. It takes a while, but the processing has to happen after the video's been uploaded, and the machine, the algorithm, scours through the whole video and the transcript. It listens to the words you say, and it picks up anything it thinks may be dodgy, and that's how you end up getting demonetized. But again, they just instantly demonetize my live shows now before investigation, and I always have to review it, and they always come back and say, actually, no, it's fine at the end, after the fact when it's too late. So I was like, I beat them to the punch this time, and I've managed to get it back on top straight away. But yeah, something must have happened. Someone must have said something, or flagged something, or complained about something. I don't know what. So now my live shows just like I said, straight demonetization. Don't even give me a chance to explain myself first. But we're back on top. We're all good. We're all good. Unfortunately, if anyone remembers my last Truth or Therapy session, the one about Aleister Crowley and his disgusting artwork and poems, yeah, that one didn't get monetized again, and I can understand that one, because that poem I read out loud was pretty awful. It was worth it though, just to show you how sick these perverted weirdos are, But yeah, I'm not surprised that one didn't quite make the cut. But no, back to Donald Marshall. It was an interesting one. I'm going to read some comments that people said to me. That's what I was doing. I was reading comments. I got a bit sidetracked there. But let's have a look what's going on with the comments. We've got 59 people here. Wonderful. That's a good number. Hello, everyone. I'm sure I've got a lot of new people here from my recent podcast. I've managed to gain 2.2 thousand subscribers from that podcast alone, and maybe a bit of that came from the By the Fruits podcast as well. So it's good to have you all here. Thank you for enjoying that talk. A lot of people have given me some amazing feedback, which I'm happy about. Yeah, and it's good to have you all here. I'm actually, if you're just itching for me to talk about the clowns and you've just tuned in, I will be reading from my book in progress about the clowns later on in this show. So you do have some clown stuff coming, and I'm actually halfway through adding images to a video I've made about the next episode in the clown series as well. Maybe I'll give you a little sneak peek of that as well and where I'm up to. But I do have a new clown video on the way. The last one I made was about Lee Bowery. Ugh, what a monstrous mess that thing was. Yeah, Lee Bowery was a terrifying one to look into, and he's just another example of absolutely terrible artists who basically make work about the worst possible things being glorified as the avant-garde idols to look up to and to become. Just let me check when my phone's popping off. Hopefully these aren't messages from people telling me that I've gone silent or something. That keeps happening. No. No, no, no. It's just my lovely wife updating some profile photos on Facebook. There we go. Oh, that's nice. Some photos from our last family holiday. That's why she's tagging me in. Excellent. Right, so I'm just going to quickly get these comments up then about this, and let's see if anyone said anything insightful about cloning. So, someone here said, cloning always makes me think back to the film The Island with Scarlett Johansson. Those unfamiliar should watch it for research purposes. I remember that one, The Island, yes. I think it turned out that all of these super fit and healthy clones, which were kept at the pinnacle of health with the perfect food, the perfect workout regime, and everything involved in their life. I think they is that the one where they win the lottery, and if they win the lottery, they get to leave the island. Was that what that one was all about? And the catch was that these people who win the lottery are actually being cashed in by their owners, and these clones are actually copies of people on the outside world who have made them for the purpose of harvesting their organs when they need them. So they're just like spare parts basically that are kept in perfect peak physical health condition. So if anybody, needs a new heart, they can just use their clone and rip it out of that thing and put it into themselves. That was a trippy one. Yeah. So again, they've been hinting at cloning everywhere in the predictive media. Absolutely. Um, Someone here says in regards to Donald Marshall, I believe most everything he says has a ring of truth to it. I've always considered myself a good judge of character, and I can tell when someone is lying. And that's kind of how I felt about Donald's stuff, like there's definitely something about it which is off. Don't get me wrong. I think he's definitely mixed up maybe his own interpretations of things that are a bit off. Maybe if he is an insider and he is there in the cloning centers, he may have been lied to himself about the truth of certain things, about what he's actually encountering. Like these real lizards, he's been told they're from underground. And they're actually like just another species on Earth, but the truth of the matter is these are some kind of Nephilim-esque creatures, aren't they? They're demonic in nature, but he obviously wouldn't be privy to that information. But I don't know, there's something there's some truth about it which you can just instinctively tell. There is something there. I will say that. Someone here is saying, Zarlodius is saying, I do remember this from years ago. It really felt like he was saying the truth. And yeah, when it first came out, it did, and Donald Marshall, this is like OG conspiracy stuff, this. Donald Marshall was literally one of the first people on YouTube when YouTube first existed talking about this concept. It's like he borrowed a lot of stuff from David Icke, who was again around at the same time, and even earlier than Donald. This whole the reptilian hybrids run the world type of thing, and all the royal family and the royal bloodlines are actually lizard people. And the only way out on the answer is through New Age spiritualist Gnosticism type of stuff and light consciousness. So the talking points are kind of actually very similar and of that time, which is why I think there's something slightly off about it. But then people say maybe he has to say it with all the lies because that's how you have to play the game to not get taken out. Maybe you tell too much truth at once, you get silenced type of stuff. Someone says here, I've heard stories about soul swapping where someone who needs a new body puts their soul in somebody else's and kicks their soul out. But these aren't clones. The body with no soul after the swap usually dies within a day or weeks, and it is like a lifeless zombie. So that's an interesting concept, soul swapping. I never actually heard about that one until you mentioned it in the comment there. So thanks for sharing that one. Um, Someone else has posted here. I'm not vetting these before I say them, by the way. So if I suddenly shut up, there's a reason. Okay. So this person says, I came across a blood for sale website for biological scientific use, and as part of the disclaimer, it said this blood is not to be used for human cloning. I was shocked, but yes, I believe it. God bless. That is strange. Why add that onto the warning, onto the disclaimer? Not to be used for human cloning is fascinating. Um, I'm not sure that's too long to read that comment. I'm going to skip over. Someone says Westworld looks more like a documentary than an HBO series. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but they're like robotic clones, aren't they? There's something else. And who knows? Maybe the advancements in robotics have got so far that these biomechanical beings do look damn near human now. Maybe they have got to that ability as well. It's just the possibilities are endless. And I've heard theories that a lot of politicians when they die get replaced by these robotic beings. That's another one I've heard. Um, Someone else says here, this is probably how all those celebrities play multiple different people. They probably aren't using makeup, masks, and skin suits, but instead are transferring their self into a clone. That's an interesting concept, perhaps. Um, Someone here says, never heard of him, but I watched some of his old videos. That's good. I've clued somebody into something they've never heard of before. That's great. Um, Someone says here, I think he's telling the truth. He is on Instagram. Interesting. I never actually looked on Instagram, but I'm currently actually have a tab open for that. So let me check where Donald Marshall on Instagram is. What's he doing? What's he doing? Uh, oh, Marshall. Oh, there he is. Yeah, there's his logo with the Megadeth logo. And so he's still posting stuff. So he's still alive. That's some good news. I'm happy to see that. It looks like he's basically posting a lot of stuff about other people, celebrities. and giving a little backstory to what happened to each of them, or basically if anyone's involved with the cloning centers, he's kind of showing it or hinting at it with this from the looks of it. Um, I'll just share the screen so you guys can get a glimpse of the type of things he posts, just for posterity, I suppose. But there we go. Let's swap that round, and here we go. So this is Donald Marshall's Instagram page as of today. The official Instagram page of the Illuminati whistleblower, exposing the New World Order, secret cloning, vril lizards, and the human hosts living among us. Interesting. Yeah, so he's posting stuff about celebrities from the looks of it and their involvement with cloning centers as it goes. So I'm going to actually probably start following this and see where it goes. Maybe I might get glean some more interesting insight from it all, but yeah, interesting. Yeah, messed up. Yeah, there we go. So it's like he made a little thing about a woman having a melt. Oh, well, of course he would bring this up, right? That makes sense. Um, and what's he saying? The man looked like me. Interesting. So is he saying what she saw was a Donald Marshall clone? That was the mysterious person on the plane? Is that what he's trying to say there? Oh, the plot thickens if that's the case. It's getting deep now. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's. I think we should take it all with a pinch of salt with this one. I think there is some truth definitely within it, and something nefarious and weird is happening to do with um, cloning. Absolutely. Is Donald Marshall's story 100% the truth on the matter? Maybe 60% the truth, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know. It could be 100%, but I'm gonna lean towards caution with this one. I would like to talk to the guy. I really would. I'm open to listening to everything he has to say. I'm not gonna at all put him down or judge him or try and force any of my own preconceived beliefs onto the matter. I'm just gonna let him tell me his side of the story. I'll ask a couple of questions, things that crop up along the way. But I would like to speak with Donald Marshall. I would. I wonder if he'd be open to a talk. I wonder. I'll send him a message and let's see how I'll see. So, yeah, let's get this slideshow back up. Here we go, and we'll let it roll through. But yeah, it's a trippy one. Let's just see what you guys in the chat have to say about this currently. Let's see if you've got anything to share. Dolly was over 25 years ago. Well, that's a good point. It was a long time ago, wasn't it? We're way past it. S. York, thanks for being here. Greetings from the Ozark Mountains, says Joanna Parker. Well, hello from the northwest of England. Spare parts for hearts, yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing when the celebrities go to jail, they get reprogrammed and replaced. Oh, that's an interesting one. Blank Page says you should try to reach out to Minds Unveiled and talk about the theory of Lucifer and the half human, half animal, as it would go with the stuff he researches in. I do watch Mind Unveiled. I've been following him for years before he was even big. I know all about his work and everything he does. I think we're on two very different pages, to be honest, in terms of the way we tackle or view the worldly stuff. He seems very much on the Gnostic hype, but his research is fascinating. It definitely is. He definitely does his research and looks into the history of things, and it is definitely fascinating. I'm not sure where we would cross over with our own research, though. I know he has briefly once mentioned my Nephilim look like clowns theory in an episode, maybe a year or two ago, talking about human bird hybrids perhaps being the Nephilim. I think he mentioned that after seeing Conspiracy R Us mention it years ago. But I don't know if he actually knows anything about me or my work. I would hazard a guess that he doesn't. Um, I remember a video on YouTube showing cloning centers like 4 years ago. Um, Yeah, yeah. There have been, it has been brought up a few times by a few people, but it's one of those theories that always just kind of slips through the cracks and gets forgotten about for a year or two again before being brought up again. It's been around for a long time. The theory's been around since 2012, you know, so it's a decade really, isn't it, if not more. Um, there were probably people talking about this before Donald Marshall. I would hazard a guess. I don't actually know. Um, yes, they announced what they are capable of 15 years too late. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it could be 50 years. It could be way more, to be honest. It's going good. Thank you for asking. I hope all's well with you. Paul Keeley, how's it going? Says a drunk wedding photographer. It's going well. Thank you very much. Good to have you here. Um, so Golden Peacock says Chuck Norris that was in The Way of the Dragon. His eyes were wider than normal. Well, that's an interesting one. Yeah, it does seem like, you know, a lot of these celebrities may die or get taken out and replaced with a clone version. You know, a cloned version that isn't quite right. Like it's close enough that it would pass, but it's not actually a perfect copy of the original individual. It's slightly different, you know, in some features. That's usually the way this goes, and it's going that the consciousness in the cloned version isn't the original person anymore. It's one of these vril reptilian entities, you know, that's are now out there in the world. Uh, that's how the theory goes. I'm not sure though. I mean, I think there may actually already be Nephilim among us, and their spirit is of, you know, that bloodline, the Serpentine bloodline. And I think they do actually look quite human these days. And I don't think it's that people have been replaced by clones necessarily. I think that they are or have always been of that race, and it's not necessarily about consciousness transfer, more that they actually have and always have been a member of that particular race. Perhaps I've heard that one before, but then it's dangerous thinking because then you could go around pointing to people saying like, "Oh well, you're a lizard person," you know. What you can end up jumping to some very dangerous conclusions and doing some stupid things if you start thinking that. So I don't know. It's a tough one to talk about. It really is, you know. And I'm empathetic to everyone's thoughts and feelings on the matter. I am. Um, all we can do is just know the theories, so we're not surprised when the truth finally comes out. I suppose because all the truth will eventually come out in the end. You know, everything that is hidden will be revealed. I believe. Um, right. I think I'm slowly catching up with the chat here. Amelia, thanks for being here. Late but made it. No notification. Yeah, I did kind of only just notify 15 minutes before going live, so it's not your fault or YouTube's fault. I've just been busy trying to set up a lot of other things before this show started. Um, clown stuff, good. Yeah, thank you, Susan. You should try and reach out to Minds Unveiled and talk about the theory of Lucifer and the Harlequins. So we said that again. Yep, yep. Is it possible to link Sam Tripoli Show to your page? I'm so excited that you are reaching people about your research. I just can't seem to find the actual podcast with you and Sam. Okay, Moon Mimi. Well, if you give me 1 second, I will get it for you right now and I will put it in the chat. So it is YouTube. So you can go and type into any podcast service, any at all, Tinfoil Hat, Sam Tripoli, and you will find me there as one of the episodes, not one of the recent episodes. But the whole thing is on YouTube. If you just type in Tinfoil Hat on YouTube, I'll be like the third one down now. Yep, something like that. I'm episode 704, and the whole thing is on there. So I will now just copy that, and this is the video version. So you actually have images to the things I was explaining and showing to him in this version. I am very red on the image for some reason because it was weird on the day. A bit of backstory to this interview. On the day, my camera actually showed me looking pale and normal, like relatively normal. But for some reason, from on his computer's side, when it showed me an image of what he sees, I was incredibly red, like clownish red. and that just was not how the colours were set on my computer. So I don't know why that happened, but I assure you I was not as flushed as the image makes me look in that show, if you were just curious. But yeah, I can post right now for you. I'm going to do that. This is a link to the live show on Sam Tripoli's show with all the images. So there you go. You can follow that link now. There it is in the chat. If you haven't seen it already, it's doing quite well. It has 10,000 views. I'm quite blown away, and the response was incredible. It's funny because on the day after after doing this show, I'll just share the screen so you can see what I'm looking at. After doing this show, look how red I look there. Ridiculous. That's not what I looked like on my end. I looked very normal on my end, so I'm kind of annoyed that that randomly happened. But yeah, on this show, afterwards, I felt disappointed in myself. I didn't feel like I did well. I didn't actually feel good about the show. I felt like I didn't say enough. Um, I I dwelt on the wrong stuff. You know what I mean? And there was so much left unsaid. Like I should have got if I could have gone for another 2 hours, I could have covered everything. I'd only just laid the foundation for the theory. I hadn't even got into the proof and the evidences that are all around us for the theory. You know what I mean? I very quickly got abruptly kind of cut off at the end because it had been 2 hours. That's as long as you go. You don't go for any longer than 2 hours, really. So it's my fault. But we talked about loads of stuff in there. I used the Wangina as the main example. I'm actually currently making a video right now. I'll let this load here and show you. But I'm going deeper into Australia and the Australian culture again. I'm going to cover the Wangina in a lot more detail. Here's the video I'm currently working on. It's 27 minutes long, as you can see here. And I'm adding images to my words now, telling the story. Looking at that, it looks like I might actually have to just pop that in a little bit. Zoom in. There you go, that'll do. Yeah, so I'm working on this video currently, guys. I'm 5 minutes into adding images. That took me an hour just to get that far into the video. So I've got another 4 hours, 5 hours worth of work to do to get images to the rest of this audio you're seeing down here. It's a long process. It's not easy. Okay, I know it looks easy, what you see, but I had to record all the audio that you see here. I had to trim the audio down and get rid of all the mistakes I made and the stuttering and the issues, I had to write the script as well, which is 8 pages long. I use Google Docs for that. So, write the script, say the script, edit the audio so it's actually down to where it needs to be, get rid of any chaff or anything like that didn't need to really be said. And then I need to put the audio into this system and then find images to back up every single thing I say so what I'm saying makes sense. And then add the images to it. It's one video, especially a half an hour video like this, it's 20 hours work really. You know what I mean? It adds up to it's a full day, non-stop without a break, but which is not the case. I have to do it over a few days. I have to spread it out in between my family life and everything else. But I am going back into into Australia, should I say, right here, and we are covering a lot of creepy things. So here's a little glimpse for you. The Wanginas is definitely one of the things we'll cover again. But I'm also going to talk about a lot of the other creatures in Australia, which are just psychedelic monsters. They truly are. All the images aren't in this right now, so I can't show you. But look at this thing. Look at this thing. The bunyip. What a nightmare. It's, this one's a creepy one. A proper psychedelic monster, and they got these creepy looking things everywhere. These snake people all over the place. The memes I mentioned on Sam Tripoli's podcast. Here's some more examples of those. Yeah, it gets weird. This video gets weird, and Aboriginal artwork as well is just so trippy and strange. And yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this one. So you got that video to look forward to. This is what I am working on currently, and like I said, if I'm gonna work on it as best I can when I get a chance. But this might be released maybe Tuesday, if I'm lucky, Tuesday or Wednesday. Monday, I'll be releasing the next episode of Tips for Truthers. If you don't know, Tips for Truthers is actually a patron show I do. So I have 34 patrons there, which is lovely. Thank you, everybody. So I do this weekly show, and here they all are. I share other things on here as well. So I'm actually 15 episodes in now to Tips for Truthers, and what I'm doing months after the fact is I'm now going to go back to the beginning and release all the episodes one at a time every week. While I'm also uploading new stuff as well, which you will eventually see 3 months down the line, you know. So you won't see episode 15 for another 3 months yourself, unless of course you sign up to Patreon. $5 a month will get you access to all these videos. And now I'm done shilling for myself there. Let's get back to the point. So yeah, this show, Tinfoil Hat, I didn't feel good about it. Afterwards, I thought like I hadn't said enough and I was disappointed, but the response has shown me otherwise. People loved it. They absolutely loved it, and no, it's a fascinating subject, so I don't blame them. It is interesting, and like I said, I've gained a lot of followers from it, which I'm happy about, and I hope I don't let you guys down. I hope you enjoy the show in the meantime. So yeah, I think we've covered cloning centers enough there. I think let's talk about iPet Go for a little bit, and then I'm going to do some reading with you guys as well. Show you where my book is up to and what I've been doing there. And then we'll have a bit of Q&A. We'll have a bit of fun. Um, cheeky plug there, says my wife. Absolutely cheeky. Well, why not? I should be able to shill for my own stuff, right? Absolutely. Yeah, right. I'm way off with the chat. I will try and catch up with that later. I was here somewhere. I wasn't very far in. There we go. Yeah, so let's bring this up. And I've got a bit of a slideshow tab which covers iPet Goats. If I just close that. There we go. So while I'm speaking, you can watch some images from iPet Goat just rolling through there. But this video, wow, I remember when it came out and everyone went crazy over this. This was it. This was it, This was like, have you seen this crazy trippy video? Like it shows so many insane things happening. It's the truth, man. The truth is in this video, and we just need to decode it and understand every single symbol that gets shown to us, and we can predict the future. They've told us the plan. It's that kind of attitude. And it seems like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in here, which is very interesting. Absolutely, you know what I mean? Whoever made it, this Louis Lefebvre, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Lefebvre, is it Lefebvre? I'm gonna say Lefebvre. There's a Louis guy. Yeah, he clearly knows a thing or two. That much is true. I'm not going to deny it. He knows something. He knows something we don't know. Um, I'm not sure what that noise was. Ooh, that sounded ominous. Let me just check what's going on. No idea what that noise was. Sorry, guys, if that blasted through your headphones, that beep there. Maybe it was Facebook or something. I don't know. I'll close Facebook to try and avoid anything like that happening again. But yeah, this guy, with this, he worked on Lord of the Rings, The Twin Towers, I believe. I think he was an animator on there. And he then went off and made his own company called Heliofant, where he talks about this one video we made, iPet Go 2. It's just one video, and that was it. That's all he created, and it was just so bizarre. He never made anything else afterwards. And everyone's decoding this for a decade, and there was stuff that happened in there which seemed to have happened in real life. It really did seem to happen. If I can skip through like this here, for example, Notre Dame on fire. The imagery is almost identical to what was depicted in this video. And it's almost as though like it's all orchestrated, it's all planned, everything's just mapped out in a script, and we're just watching the script unwind, and just watching it happen before our eyes. And it's kind of, you won't realize what it was trying to tell us until it's too late. If you watch iPet Go 2, it's like, so that's what that meant now. That's what that church falling in the background was. It was literally showing Notre Dame collapsing, And is that true? Is that what was going on? Did this guy really know, practically a decade ago, that Notre Dame would collapse in this fashion? It's just so strange, isn't it? And is it all just spiritual in nature? Did this guy channel something from another realm, and they obviously can see things in the future in a way that we can't necessarily understand, and even that's hard to explain. But I think I'm starting to Right, I'm going to pause for a second. I am currently working on a video. It's not really a video, it's actually thoughts. I'm currently hashing out some thoughts in my mind about the spiritual realm and how it works. Okay. Um, if you're interested, here's my process. Where is it? Where are they? There you go. Here's a thumbnail I've just made about it. Okay. And I haven't got the video made yet, but I am figuring out what to say exactly. I might have to make a bullet point list, but I'm going to make a video about the spirit realm. Okay, because I cover it a lot in my research, and it seems just loosely here, just some very loose ideas I've got rattling around in my brain. I'm just going to sit down one day. I'm just going to say it all in like a stream of consciousness, because I think that's when it's dealing with the spirit realm. This is kind of the only way you can discuss it, 'cause it's so intangible and hard to grasp. But you kind of just have to say your thoughts on the matter and hope something eventually makes sense. But it seems like the Aboriginals of Australia that I've been researching about recently, for this video I'm making, they have this very specific understanding of how reality works, which is intrinsically linked with this thing they call the dream time. Okay, and that's their understanding of the spirit realm. They call it the dream time. But as far as they're concerned, here's this really complex map about it here, you can see on the side. But as far as they're concerned, the dream time, the real human world, the physical world, and the sacred world are all happening at once. The spiritual world, including the past, future, and present. All of time is happening encircled within one moment. So creatures, for example, that live physically in the past are still alive today and living today as though they were in the past as well, even though they're no longer alive physically. It's very confusing. It's extremely confusing, their interpretation of reality. But it turns out all the Aborigines are completely off their tits all the time on something called paturi, okay, which is an extremely psychedelic plant. I feel like they are constantly seeing all the spiritual beings that exist, okay, that existed. The Nephilim, that's what they are, really. The Nephilim hybrid creatures, these things. They still see them walking around, basically, and hiding in places, in hills and mountains and in rocks. They actually physically see them because they're constantly tripping and viewing the spirit realm. But because of this worldview they have, where they synonymously live at the same time with dead entities in spirit form, but don't discern the difference between a living spirit and a dead spirit anymore. That's how they kind of view things. It's kind of the one thing. They are both dead and alive at the same time. They are both living in the present with us now, as though they lived in the past in the ancient times as well at the same time. It's really weird, okay? But I think this is something to do with the nature of the spirit realm and how it actually interacts with our world and works. And obviously, it could be coming full circle here back to IPEC Goat. Perhaps this is what was happening here. Perhaps this is something to do with how the spirit realm interacts with the physical and what this Louis Lefebvre, claims he did. He just made symbols using archetypes, essentially. And it's kind of the artwork got away from him. And things happened that even he didn't understand were predictions till after the fact. Because it's kind of like the spirit communication or spirit realm of ideas of the past, future, and present kind of channeled into this artwork indirectly through symbolic archetypes, and it could be an explanation for how he predicted so much. It's not that he did it himself personally because he knew some stuff. It could be that the way the spirit realm and the way reality works, never mind that's we need to stop thinking about the spirit realm as another thing separate to our realm. I think they're the same thing. It's all happening at once, just like the Aborigines kind of view it. I think this we as we consciously perceive the world are also in the spirit realm, if you want to call it that, but we're already there. It's just our perception is the only thing that changes, whether or not we can interact with it or view certain aspects of it, and that can change through many forms, through divine intervention and through psychedelics, let's say. But obviously, I think one way is a lot better than the other. This isn't an advocacy for drugs in any way. This is just me trying to understand the nature of that spirit realm. So maybe this is what was happening. Maybe this Louis Lefebvre was kind of indirectly connecting to the future through the collective archetypical symbols of past, future, and present within the dreaming, as the Aboriginals would call it, the dream time. I don't know. Everyone has their theory on this. I mean, I cannot definitively say what it is, and no matter what I say, there will always be somebody who says, "No, you're wrong. It's this." Because there's always somebody out there who's certain they have it all figured out. They know. Oh, you know, do you? You know everything about the spirit realm and how it works, do you? You're God, are you? I see. You're God. I get it. You know everything. There's always somebody. So it's kind of like I'm not going to say what it is and isn't. But maybe there was some kind of weird dream time channeling going on with the creation of this thing, or simply, maybe it was just a guy who knew a thing or two who's an insider and he just put it into some artwork. Maybe this artwork isn't for us. Maybe it was created by secret society members for secret society members so then they can have a script of what's to come. So they can to keep referring back to the script so they can know what's coming next and prepare. They have the eyes to understand the symbols very quickly, perhaps. So to us, this seems like a mystery, but when they look at this, they just see a whole language we don't understand being told to them as the script gets told to them through symbols. Maybe that's what was going on. I don't know. The speculation on this is wild and out there. Um, but what do you guys think in the chat? Give me a quick breakdown. I'm going to quickly read what you guys have said, but people liked the video about this. They liked me reminding them about it, and it's just bizarre, isn't it? He's taking it down. It's been 11 years and 9 weeks and 2 days, and he removes it. And someone made an interesting comment actually. This is how magicians work in the occult. And if I can find the comment, he says it way better than I can say it right now. But he made a very valid point. I thought it was very interesting. So let me just quickly get the video up and check the comments on my side. And it's actually one of the recent ones, so newest comments. Oh, by the way, the amount of times I got a comment saying, "Yeah, but it's still up," and it's like, that's not what I'm saying. Another channel does have these videos up on YouTube. The creator of the video has taken his version down. That was my point. It's like a few people just seem to miss that point entirely and just kept saying to me, "Yeah, but it's still up though, isn't it, you idiot? You're a moron. Do you not have eyes? Can you not clearly see the video is still up?" And it's kind of like, no, come on. Come on. Watch the video before commenting, please, is all I could think. Whatever. Alright, where is this comment? Something about owning half the wealth of the world. Don't know what that's about. Someone said, "Oh, thanks to people like you, I have now turned my back to any non-Christian spiritual thing. It's made my life easier and much more rewarding. Thank you for all you do." That was a nice comment. I wasn't expecting that, but it's good to know I've made an impact in somebody's life. It's always nice to hear. Yeah. So here we go. So someone says here, a talisman is charged by concentrating on it. Where attention goes, energy flows. However, to free and transmute the energy, the talisman needs to be destroyed. So deleting the video completed the ritual, which is very interesting, isn't it? Was this video something created to direct people's attentions intentionally? And the amount of attention this thing has harnessed over a decade is ridiculous. People have dedicated their lives practically to trying to decode this thing. There's so many channels out there decoding IPEC Go 2, and all this attention has been put onto this occult piece of artwork that maybe some kind of energy has been kind of harnessed or sourced from that attention. And by destroying the video or removing it, maybe they've kind of loosed that energy now and funneled it and channeled it into some kind of ritual or some way of gaining power. It's just an interesting concept to understand, you know. All artwork at the end of the day is magic. You know, it's all spelling, it's all spells at the end of the day. So we have to be careful about what we choose to focus our attention onto. You know, to put our heart and soul into this video and to think this thing that this person created is the be all end all answer to everything is kind of like putting your faith into tarot card readings or horoscopes, you know, or it's divination, isn't it? You know, using, you know, putting your faith into a physical object or some kind of like a magic 8 ball. It's the same thing, you know. It's divination is what you would call that. It's witchcraft. Um, to think that this actually holds any weight to your future, you know, and in a way you're kind of letting it dictate your future by following it and meticulously breaking it down, believing it holds the answers to your future. You give it power by giving it your attention, type of thing. So it's just a fascinating concept. I thought that was an interesting comment, and I appreciated that one. The internet is our Tower of Babel, says Lisette. That's interesting. Um, Talking about the advancements of AI, interesting. We're talking about the demonic aspect of AI. So Chris is here is trying to interpret what I'm saying. Says, "Oh, so iPet Goat was, so to speak, his interpretation of his interactions with the spirit realm. In a way, I guess so. Yeah, but I mean, personally, I consider. I mean, look at this one right here, right now. This image on the screen. In the background, you know, it's talking about evolution. It's talking about the owl in the background there, which is obviously a symbol for the owl of Athena, the symbol for knowledge and understanding. The wallpaper is actually a maze of some kind, which is well, that's an interesting concept. I think that represents the mind. We've got it's the final hour on the clock there. You know, it's the clock strikes 12. Time is short. It's about to happen, and you got this evolution thing in the background that shows an enlightened man at the end. And this whole thing kind of is like a diktat of mankind awakening to their true power and destroying all the old structures of the world. This is the Gnostic Luciferian coming out of Babylon into the New Age type of understanding about conspiracy. You know, you need to destroy religions because they control the mind. You know, you need to destroy all the old institutions because they corrupt the soul and keep man suppressed and in the dark about their true enlightenment. You know, and then obviously the solution is this false light of Lucifer, this being here, this creature on the right here. You know, the end of communism and all, and capitalism, and the birth of this. The end. You know, Lefebvre Louis described this as the abominable spirit of humanity coming alive. You know, and waking up, the fire of humanity. You know, but really, this is the Antichrist. This is Lucifer, the false light of Lucifer coming to full fruition. This is the supposed answer to all the corruption we're currently experiencing. And this is how the Freemasons work. They have this motto, you know, out of darkness and into the light. And that's what they mean. The Satanists and the satanic aspect of the world represents the dark side. Okay. And the occultists believe that the dark side is a necessary play, basically, to convince people to then turn to the light side of the occult, which is through Lucifer, the light bringer. So, you know, people say, oh, there's factions, you know, there's the good Illuminati and the bad Illuminati. That's all a lie, you know, it's all one thing. They're working together. They're two sides to the same coin. They're the two heads of the same phoenix, the same eagle, you know, and the phoenix that will rise from the ashes of the chaos and the destruction that they will cause. And the blame will be put on the dark people, the dark things, the suppressive stuff, the evil stuff, you know. And what will be presented is the solution, which is the light side of the occult, the Luciferian side, you know. But it's all two heads of the same beast. It's two sides of the same coin. It's the same system. And it's this false awakening. This is the New Age Gnostic version of an awakening, you know. And that's what this is basically, this whole video was showing you. It was trying to show you this whole false awakening aspect, destroying the old corrupted stuff, child slavery, war, religion, false leaders, liars, puppet that are being puppeteered, the illusions put in our face to keep us as mind controlled goats, let's say, all in favor of this new light bringing Luciferian agenda, which will bring peace, love, and unity and harmony and diversity and cohesion as they sell it. It'll be so much better than this dark, evil world that came before us. But to get there, we need to destroy the old. There needs to be the death of this old rebellion attitude type of thing. It's all a play. But it's all the deception. It's all one big deception because the answer they're going to offer you, this dude, getting rid of the monotonous drudgery of reality and life and the system and the man. This is not Jesus. This is not your savior. This is not the person that will actually save your soul. This is the Antichrist. This is the one that will be pleasing to the worldly people out there. And those worldly people who are detached from God and are not connected to the Father and the Son will view this figure as the savior. And he won't be offering salvation. He won't be offering to save your soul. If anything, he'll be promoting some kind of new age scientific worldview. I say scientific because it won't be even real science. It'll be pseudoscience at best. It'll be the new age chakra aligning, consciousness expanding worldview of collective archetypical consciousness. It'll be that there. You are all of humanity is one soul experiencing itself through individual vessels, that type of thing. It'll be like the Taoist, Zen, Buddhist reincarnation version. It'll all be a lie. It'll sound so sweet to the worldly people, to those people who don't know God really, and people like us who are like saying, no, this awakening you're having is not true. You're not awake. You don't know the truth. You're still asleep. You're just within the script of the new paradigm of the darkness into light paradigm, but the truth is, you need to be saved and born again through the blood of Christ. That's the truth, that's the real awakening. I don't want to call it an awakening. It's just being saved. It's just having the eyes truly to actually see what's really going on in front of you, and not being whim to this agenda that's at play. So you need to be careful that Fred Withrow is young new age. I would say so. I think this idea of the collective unconscious is a lie from the pits of hell. I think that's how the Nephilim interact with the world. I believe the Nephilim entities have a collective consciousness, like the Borg, like a hive mind. Not humans. We don't, okay? When we die, we sleep. We are individuals. We are individually made beings with a divine consciousness that's wholly unique to ourselves. And this like lie that there's a reincarnation and the soul just gets reprocessed back into the whole and then plucked from it, and we're all just reflections of the whole and all that sort of stuff. And all of humanity's thoughts and processes are just in one big gelatinous blob of ideas of consciousness we call the collective. No, that's not how humans are. That's how they are. That's how the other is. That's how the Nephilim are. And they've kind of imposed their own reality into our worldview. And I think Jung played a huge part in that, to be honest. I really do. I don't like it's thanks to Jung that people who dabble in DMT, who interact with these Nephilim spirits, they think they are archetype symbols of the collective unconscious. They're a trickster spirit, and the trickster's just there to teach me a thing or two about myself. And it's kind of like, no, these are not archetypical reflections of humanity's collective consciousness trying to tell you to chill out and have a good time, man. These are real disembodied spirits of real entities that have a separate consciousness from you and an agenda. And that's why it's dangerous. That's why these new age philosophies are so twisted. Like they sound so lovely and sweet to the people who aren't saved, the people who haven't truly woken up. And they will be convinced that they have woke up. They know it all. They know the truth. That they are the consciousness is expanded. The third eye is open. That kind of stuff. But they're not. They're still asleep, fast asleep, and it's sad, really. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. What the hell was I talking about? Yeah, okay, yeah. iPet Go. That's all this is actually trying to tell you. That's what this is really all about. That's what the whole thing was showing you. He is the dark, evil, satanic hidden hand, and we're gonna get saved by this Luciferian light dude here, basically. That's the true agenda that they're actually trying to play out for us. And I don't really think this cartoon depicted it the way I just explained it. I think they were glorifying it. I think they were saying, yep, this person's going to come and save us all. And it was telling you to look forward to this person coming to help save us from people like this, this evil lizard dude. This new false light bringer is going to save you from the evil lizard people, the Satanists. And it's kind of like they're the same group. They're all a part of the same thing, and all of them, both of them, both sides work for Lucifer at the end of the day. They work for fallen angels. They work for those who rebelled against God in the very beginning and are still playing out that rebellion today. Or trying to, anyway. Luckily, we were given a way out. That's what hopefully I can teach people, get them to that point. And that's, there's so many people out there who think that they're awake. And that term alone, awake, has become so left-wing liberal wokist terminology. To be awake is to be woke, to have your eyes open to the injustices in the world, and to become a social justice warrior type thing. But before all of that, before that left-wing liberal ideology context was added to the word, it used to mean this, being awake to the corruptions of the world in like a conspiracy sense. Then it became highly politically charged as time went on, but even then it was always a lie. Just because you suddenly wake up to how bad the world always has been doesn't mean you're awake. Until you're saved, you're not true. Your eyes aren't truly open, as far as I'm concerned. You'll always be whim to the worldly temptations. Your soul will always be suppressed, as far as I'm concerned. Your consciousness may not ever be expanded as it could be if you were to get a relationship with God, is all I'm saying. And you'll realize, these spirit realms that get glorified so much in the New Age perspective are actually nothing special, and to have the ability, I believe, to not give in to amazement at these spirit realms, which is the ability God gives you with the truth about what it really is. It's nothing special. It's just this world, but a place your perceptions don't normally perceive. It's just the cogs of how this world works. It's just the behind the scenes pipe work. It's just the warp to the woof. It's just the other. It's just one side of the coin to the other. It's the tails to the heads. It's this world. It's not a special, magical, wonderful place that's going to teach you anything magical. It's still the world, What God's offering you at the end of all of this is a real place that's away from all of that. A real new place, Call it heaven, call it what you want, call it the new earth. But this world, including its wonderful astral realm, these New Ages obsess about the place where the Nephilim reside and are trapped as prisoners. All of it will go in the end. All of it will burn. All of it will be destroyed. Um, you know, we'll be given new light bodies. We'll be something else. And we'll actually get to those who have been saved will actually truly get to that place that these New Agers believe they're already kind of going to when they take DMT. That's kind of my view on it right now. But again, like I explained earlier in the show, to talk about the spirit realm is to just randomly rant about your current thoughts on the situation and figure it out. Because who can truly know? Who can truly know? That's the issue, isn't it? And I suppose that's where faith comes into it as well. But I'm not God, and there's probably intricacies to the mechanisms of the spirit realm I will never understand, and I do not have the capabilities to understand. And that's just fine, because the real prize is this existence right here, right now, that we were gifted. This ability to exist in a physical and embodied form is a miracle. It's the very thing the Nephilim crave. It's what they wish they had the capabilities to be and do. It's what they once had, and that was taken away from them because of their evil in physical form. You give a Nephilim a physical form, they will cause nothing but death and destruction. That's basically how it always goes. But we get to have a body. We get to experience this beautiful creation that God made in an embodied form. And the subgnostics out there would have you believe it's evil, it's cruel, it's a flesh prison. And no, that's just not true. That's another lie. That's another coming out of the darkness into the light myth from Lucifer himself, to make you doubt your very existence. That's the type of stuff that leads to suicide at the end of the day. You'll find no happiness or joy in existence with that kind of worldview. And you can say, well, you're just a stupid, naive Christian who's fallen for the tricks of the demiurge to love your flesh prisons, and I'm an enlightened God who's going to break free from this evil world, while you're still stuck here in your naive, foolish worldview. And while he's saying all these things to me, I'm actually having quite a happy life. I'm actually enjoying life abundantly and having more life abundantly. And I'm happy and I'm calm and I'm producing things. I'm being creative. I'm exercising my consciousness as God intended in ways that sharpen me, train me, make me more unsusceptible to deceit, things like that. And I find a lot of these Gnostic thinkers are out there believing that they're so incredibly wise and so much better than everybody else that they're actually miserable and lonely and have an empty, hollow life. But at least they've got all that knowledge to keep them warm at night. And the knowledge alone isn't going to save you, unfortunately. It really isn't. You have to humble yourself. It's a big part of it, and I think pride is a major issue. A lot of the Gnostics also suffer from. But make no mistake, this whole demiurge Gnostic worldview of the evil demiurge god keeping us trapped within this prison state existence. Our souls are just trapped in this evil world, and Lucifer is actually the light bringer who wants to free us from the evil, corrupted, trap created by this false god they call the demiurge, that we call Jesus. And it's it's just an inversion of the truth. It's just a twisted lie. Anyway, what's going on? Paul, all being one soul fits the hive man mentality they're trying to achieve, says Wendy. Yeah, exactly. You get it. I'm preaching to the choir here, guys. Maybe I've picked up a few Gnostic style thinkers along the way with the whole Sam Tripoli podcast. And I am a Christian. I made no secret about that, so you must have known that before coming to my channel. I'm not looking to offend any of you guys. I'm just giving you my understanding and worldview. Take of it what you will. But I'm giving you a personal promise that what I'm saying isn't all bollocks. Okay? There's something to it. I think you all know that. So don't dismiss me as a naive fool. I know a thing or two. Even though I am a Christian, and I'm hoping I might be able to just give you some insights into what we actually believe, because I know there's a lot of misunderstanding about Christian belief out there as well. We're not all zealots. That's something I do have to say. I'll gladly be seen as a fool for God in this fallen world, says Humble Strange. Exactly, yeah, absolutely. Um, Funny how Catholicism wants you to deny your physical life and wallow in suffering instead. Yeah, no, I'm not all about that. I don't think that's what God intended for us. I don't think He intended us to not live. You know? I think he laid out all the rules necessary and explained to us how to actually live a good life. The roadmap's there. It's just seldom few people actually go down that path because the path is narrow. And it's not easy as well. It's not easy to live a good life. It's not easy to be a good person in this world. That's the issue. Um, but to get there, you do have to go against your instincts slightly, and you've got to forgive people that might not necessarily deserve it. You've got to try your best to be an example, an exemplar, and be like Christ. And that's a hard thing to do, and we fall short all the time. But as long as you're trying, that's what counts, and it makes the world a better place. The more people do that, I believe. Um, But again, I'm not saying this isn't a hard life. I'm not saying that at all. And God didn't promise us an easy life. Um, Fred Withrow says, I'm on day 10 of no weed, trying to get to 20 days, 21 days. Something you talked about made me tempt to quit. Good for you, Fred. I remember when I quit cannabis, the first week was the hardest. The first 2 weeks were hard, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. But once you get past it, you don't have to go back. You can leave it and keep going, and things get dramatically better very quickly. And you'll find all you were really addicted to were the habits you formed, the timings of when you would smoke. You'd have to fill with something else now. But the withdrawal symptoms of coming off cannabis really only last about a week in the hardcore form, especially if you've been smoking it a lot. But your life will get much better if you just leave it behind and don't look back. So my word of encouragement for you there is basically telling you just don't go back. You say you're trying to get to 21 days. Then what? What's your next step after 21 days? You're gonna go for 30, or you're gonna have a joint and reward yourself for going 21 days. Don't do that. Just stop. You can do it. You've gone 10 days. That's amazing. That's an amazing achievement, and I'm proud of you. Well done. Don't look back. There's no point. Move on. It gives you nothing at the end of the day. I know it seems like it can help you cope with the harsh realities of the world, like I explained earlier, but it does nothing for you. It doesn't make anything better. It makes things worse. Let alone the monetary loss of spending that much money on that drug all the time. You'll start to feel your wallet feel the benefits definitely. Within 2 months, you'll realize just how much money you've saved from not spending it on a quarter every week or an eighth, or whatever you do. Um, but well done, Fred. You're an example to all of us. Keep going. I'm smoking tobacco like a trooper. Hey, you know what? One thing, I get that. That's fair enough. I didn't quit tobacco straight away. No, that took me another 5, 6 years to get rid of fully. But it's fantastic that you got rid of weed one step at a time. I'm not asking you to rush everything. Um, the longer you abstain, the more you realize you were imprisoned. I was on the hardest, most dangerous drug today. I am now clean for 2 years. Well done, Paulie. Good for you. Um, Trina, I came to you through Sam Tripoli's podcast. I love what you're. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Let's get a new image on the screen there. I pressed pause by accident. I love what you're laying down, and I follow Jesus. He's my savior. Oh, well, brilliant, Trina. Welcome aboard. Trying to get back in the chat, see if I missed anything there. Some arguments over the Lightbringer meaning and all that sort of stuff. Look, you can speculate and philosophize and refer to text as much as you want, but if they're talking about the Lightbringer, they're talking about Lucifer. If they're talking about Lucifer, then they're talking about the fallen seraphim angel that was once next to God, the leader of the rebellion against God. Um, People say Satan is not Lucifer, perhaps, but I do believe it is the same character. Satan just means the adversary, and Lucifer is the epitome of the adversary of God and mankind. It's the darkness and light aspect, coming out of the dark into the light. Satan is just the dark character that Lucifer has created that will cause all the problems. And then Lucifer will present himself as the light bringer as well to fix all the problems he caused. That's all it is. Satan and Lucifer, it's a play. It's a play. He's putting on a show for you. He's an actor. He's a musician at the end of the day. He's a performer. He was the one who sang and with the most beautiful voice and played the trumpets next to God, glorifying God before his rebellion. This guy knows how to put on a bloody show, and that's what's going on right now. And don't, you know, trust your gut on this one. Don't get too bogged down in the semantics and the weeds of texts written by men and their interpretations of things. That's what's going on, And there are other terrible angels out there as well, other than Lucifer. I mean, Azazel's a pretty nasty one, the leader of the Watchers, and he's going to get released in the end days out from the pits in Revelations under the name of Abaddon or Apollyon. There are other angels for sure, but Satan and Lucifer are not separate from one another. They're synonymous. They're just two schizophrenic characters under the same banner. Luciferian pipe dreams. Um, right, so the chat's gone there. Is that why the media is so satanic? Says Ave Kaiser. Yes, pretty much. Um, it's overtly satanic on purpose. They want you to see it and notice it and go, well, this isn't right. This needs to change, and then they'll offer you the false solution. Which is their version of enlightenment away from such lower basic instincts, lower chakra thinking and attitudes, and I don't know, they might sell it through a drug in a Brave New World sense. I don't know how they're going to do it. Maybe AI, merge yourself with machine and expand your consciousness that way. I don't know. There's many ways that's going to pan out. I don't have all the answers, but I know, like I said, I can see enough to see that it's blatantly obvious on purpose, the Satanism. So just checking through the chat here, see what's going on. I'm impressed, says Scott Johnson, for lack of a better word, to hear the correlation between psychedelics and your path of being a Christian. I've had some similar experiences. Yeah, well, I came out of the New Age ideologies and thinking, Gnostic thinking, Eastern philosophies before coming to Christ. I've been around the block. I've been around the world in that sense. I've had all sorts of philosophies, but I've settled on this as the truth, and I have yet to come across anything that actually proves it wrong so far. And I've been looking, like, just because something is the truth doesn't mean I haven't tried to test it, and it's stood up to every single test so far. And I imagine it's going to put nothing has shaken my faith in the 8 years now that I've been a Christian. People have tried, and nothing has held up really. It's kind of like once you know, sort of thing. It's that which has been seen cannot be unseen, and because Jesus is a personal savior. As obviously, I'm not saying that Jesus is everybody's savior, so don't get mixed up when I say that. You know, but because he is very personal with his with people, he has given me experiences which help me personally maintain strong in my faith. Spiritual stuff, that I can't prove to other people, but he'll work the same in other people's lives to accept him as well. That's how it works. Watched an exorcist who said he no longer can use Lucifer since he was cast down. Says he presents in possessions as Satan or Beelzebub. Thought that was interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Um, Again, I'm not sure if Beelzebub or Satan. Well, Beelzebub is actually another character. Sorry, excuse me, everyone. Okay, I'm back, everyone. I think my son just woke up a little bit there. It's quite hot in England lately, and I think he's been struggling to stay asleep. But haven't we all? It's been awful, honestly. I am too white to deal with this heat. I'll tell you that right now. I am too pasty. I like a nice northern climate, cold, cool night. That's just the way I like it. Yeah, okay, so we're talking about fallen demons there. Right, guys, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the slideshow on just for my Nephilim Clown series. And I'll roll through all the images I've got. I'll put one on that has like 100 images, actually, better than this one. Here we go. That's what that'll do it. Let's keep going with this one. There we go. So I'll let these images roll through, and I'm gonna go through some reading in my book actually. Just show you guys where I'm up to with that, what we've been doing, and then we'll call it a night, maybe in about 20 minutes or so, and I'll do maybe a few Q&A as well. We've talked about all sorts of things. I've done my little random rants. I hope I've edified a few people's faiths or made people question a few things along the way, or if not, I hope you just enjoyed listening to me rant. um, I definitely will have to make that spiritual world talk at some point, just try to explain what it is and from my own experiences, my understandings I have come to currently. Though I don't have definitive answers, but I think it'll be interesting just to talk about and get your guys' reactions. Looks like we have 96 viewers right now, which is amazing. We're reaching new numbers now, which is wonderful. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for sticking along long enough to listen to me just go on and on and on. But yeah, I am going to just get my book up on the screen. It takes a while to load these days because I'm about 60,000 words into it. So there we go. And I'll share my screen with you quickly just so you can see what I'll be reading. But this is the book. So on the left here, you can see I've got my chapters laid out. I haven't written a preface yet. That's something I'm going to do last, obviously, once I've gone through the motions. I'm sure I'll have a few things to say in the preface. But section 1 is done. And this is a total of 10 chapters, up to chapter 10 here, Demons. And that is a good, what are we on there, 65 pages? Oh, sorry, Demons goes on for a bit as well. 69 pages is the first opening there. We go through all sorts in this one, and I've done a few readings of these chapters already. We go through basically the biblical history of the Nephilim, how it all happened, the fall of the angels, the meaning of the Nephilim name, what it was like to live in the antediluvian age. We go through all the flood myths, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, all the ones found in the Americas, all the ones found in Europe as well. All of these are referenced, by the way, as you can see here. I'm not just talking out my ass. This is actually a relatively scholarly work, if I do say so myself. My sources are varied and vast. I think I'm up to like over 300 so far, and I'm only halfway through the book. So we go through all the flood myths, then we talk about the aftermath of the flood. So we go back through the second incursion or Nephilim survival. How did the Nephilim make it through? We talk about the curse of Canaan. We talk about Nimrod and the pillars and the tower. We talk about the genocide of the Nephilim and how the Nephilim were all wiped out during the rise of the Israelites through the lands of Canaan to reclaim those holy lands, and a few other tidbits about Nephilim survival all around the world. We talk about the nature of demons and how the Nephilim became the demons after these events, and obviously how Jesus' ministry was dedicated to casting them out as well. Then section 2, this is where I am now. So it took a few months to get section 1 boxed off, and that's just foundational stuff. Section 1 is called the foundation, and now that's laid, a solid biblical world history foundation is laid. I can actually start telling you about my theory. And this is kind of where I got up to on the Sam Tripoli show. I spent the first hour and a half laying the foundation, talking about everything I discussed in section 1, And then when I finally got onto the clown stuff, I just quickly skimmed over what is another 15 chapters here, to try and hit as many points as I could before my time was up. And again, I feel like there's so much more I could have said, and I'm disappointed. I'm my own worst critic, and I'm disappointed with the podcast in that respect. But section 2 is all about the clown. And I've written chapter 11, which is biblical descriptions of the angels. So this is all the descriptions we can find through biblical sources and extra biblical sources about what the angels would have looked like. I have read this chapter already to people, so you can find that in sort of my older videos somewhere. It would have been in a truth or therapy session, no doubt. Maybe not the last one or the one before. Chapter 12 is biblical descriptions of the Nephilim. This is every single thing I can find from strictly biblical and extra biblical sources that discuss the visage and the way the Nephilim looked. And with that foundation laid, we can now talk about modern encounters. So when I say modern, I mean within the last maybe 200 years. In the grand scheme of things, that is relatively modern for the existence of Nephilim. And we talk about the North American mounds and the skeletons found within them. And I talk about Bigfoot and the wild men tradition, which is all around the world, which are kind of the modern remnants of Nephilim that are mostly talked about within the cryptid world. I was going to discuss here things like the Giant of Kandahar and stuff like that, but I've kind of left it out for now, and I might come back to it. I feel like I need to be very selective about the things I talk about, and I know there's a lot of speculation about whether even the Giant of Kandahar was true or not. Um, it's hard to say, but for now, I think just talking about the wild man makes sense to stop there, because in chapter 14, which I've just been working on, we go into the origins of the clown, literally, literally from start to finish, where the clown comes from. And I want to read to you today just some of what I've written here. This is first draft stuff. I've quite a few pages into it. I still need to write about Joseph Grimaldi, the king of all clowns. I do have some books ready to go, if I can find on here. Kindle, there it is. I do have his autobiography. Sorry, his biography here, but I also have another book someone's written here. Pantomime: The Life of a Clown, which is this is basically all about his life from a biographical perspective, a more modern one. But there's also another book which I have, which is his own memoirs, which are, if I could just find the files somewhere in my mess of files, if I can go to desktop, let's go to YouTube, books, and in here I do have the memoirs of Joseph Grimaldi. So this is an old book, and it was written actually and edited by who is it again? Why am I blanking this name? It's a huge name. Give me a minute. Charles Dickens. That's it. So Charles Dickens is actually somebody who put this together, put his memoirs together, and made it into something that was readable. So this is an old book. Fascinating, and I've learned a lot from reading this. The guy had actually a very sad life, to be honest. It's always the case for the clowns, isn't it? They always have a very sad life. But yeah, this is 1838. This was written. You think about that; that was quite a long time ago, Um, and it's a breakdown of his entire life. So I have read this, and I've already pulled a few key points and quotes, which I'll have to go back and try and remember where they were. But there's some moments in his life here which are quite poignant about the creation of the clown outfit and what inspired him to make it and things like that, which will be included in this section of the book. So I've got two books on Joseph Grimaldi there. I've read this one. I haven't fully read the one I got for Kindle, which is a more modern reinterpretation, like I showed you a second ago, which it compiles a bit more outsider information into it as well. But that is something I will cover. It talks about the Harlequin and all this sort of stuff as well. And Grimaldi's family tree, and just his life in general, which is quite interesting. And it's this period of time, the 1800s onwards, which are more fascinating, because it was 1800 when the clown costume you see here was actually invented, and this is where you get the first iteration of the modern day clown. But his roots are in a character called the Harlequin, which actually seems to have been mentioned here in Harlequin's Frolics, which is quite interesting. But you can't talk about the invention of the clown without first talking about the Harlequin and its demonic inspiration. So I'm going to read for you just my first draft here of what I've written, and just to give you a sneak peek of where I'm up to so far with chapter 14. Once chapter 14 is boxed off and we've discussed the demonic origins of the clown specifically, we can then get into secret societies and their veneration of the clown, and circuses and their secret society roots, and why we even have a thing as a circus to begin with. And then we can get into the clown as a Nephilim, and then we can go into breaking down the image of a clown as simile and metaphor for Nephilim features. And then we'll talk about the Hatman and the Ringmaster, which is to do with secret societies again. And maybe chapter 17 actually might be 16. I might swap them two around because it would make sense to talk about secret societies and then talk about the Hatman. But the Hatman is such a distinct phenomena which people experience that maybe it does warrant its own chapter. It's hard to tell, I've got couple of the Babadook, Ingrid Cole, and all these type of things mentioned here as a quick references, but there's so much more than just these two things to talk about when talking about the Hatman. But its links to the Ringmaster of the Circus and then the Secret Society's Grand Worshipful Master can't be ignored as well. These are things I didn't even get to talk about in the Sam Tripoli show. This is where it gets really deep and trippy and weird. This is where the theory really has a smoking gun, that it is all nefarious. Section 3 will be about going through all the folk traditions of the world and discussing, obviously, the representations of the Nephilim within different folk traditions on each continent and how they have clownish features in their representations. You'll all know, if you've come from Sam Tripoli's show, you'll know about the Wangina already. I did talk about that at length. But and the cookery as well, but if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I have a lot of information on all of this, which will be the main crux of the entire book. Section 3, I think, is the most fascinating anthropological study of the book. And again, the references will just come flying. Where am I up to with references so far? We're around 243. Yeah. So I'm going to read this section to you now, guys. I'm going to switch up the image on the screen for you just to be that slideshow, just so you can get a glimpse of some of the things I'm talking about and the ideas. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna read this to you now. So let's get a quick drink of water because I am thirsty, and then we'll call it a night. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Let's go. So, chapter 14, Origin of the Clown. Subheading, Greece and Rome. Recounting the tale of where clowns originate can be made difficult through a lack of definition for what is meant when one says the word clown. If you simply mean an individual who makes others laugh through physical buffoonery and self-degradating gags, then we would really have to go back to the very beginning of human history within organised societies. The drudgery of the day-to-day grind, striving to put food on the table, and simply staying alive has meant that the need for comedians to add a pinch of much-needed levity to existence has always been necessary. Peter Ludwig Berger was an Austrian-born American sociologist and Protestant theologian, and as he put quite eloquently in his book, Redeeming Laughter, The Comic Dimension of Human Experience, quote, "It seems plausible that folly and fools, like religion and magic, meet some deeply rooted need in human society." End quote. I suppose it's best to make clear now, before we go any further into dissecting the clown, that the jovial actions of those who play the role of a clown within society are not really that important for the purposes of this book's theory, as it is wholly concerned with the aesthetics. The story of how the clown came to be moulded into the white-faced, fear-inducing, uncanny valley scaling, monstrous caricature of the Nephilim scourge that plagues mankind is the only thing I'm concerned with. That being said, I will summarise the history of the clown character to establish the correct context for my theory. The irreverent character can find its humble origins in the sacred clowning cultures, which have come to be termed. Sorry, let me rephrase that. My writing's not great there. The irreverent character can find its humble origins in the sacred clowning of cultures which have come to be termed clown societies. The most common example I am often posited with are the fools of the 5th dynasty of Egypt around 2400 BC, in which African pygmies would be employed by royalty to take on the role of Bes, the short god of dance and battle, protector of the home who scares away evil spirits. I am also constantly reminded of the even older and still active traditional rituals of the Pueblo clowns, or the sacred Hayoka jesters of Native American tribes. These examples are referring to a very specific kind of ritualistic clowning, in which a religious and sacred emphasis has been put onto the act of ridiculing social norms and making others laugh. Cultures that have these formalized clown groups within them are referred to as clown societies by anthropologists. To quote the Encyclopedia Britannica, though some attempts have been made to discover the religious origins of secular clowns, fools, and jesters, it is the elaborate ritual roles of mass clown societies among such groups as the American Indians that have attracted the most attention. The most famous of these are the Coyemshi, the dancing clowns of the Pueblo Indians. Their obscene and sacrilegious actions punctuate the most important religious ceremonies and serve as a sign of the presence of the powerful primordial beings as a means of social control by the satire of the antisocial behavior of particular individuals. End quote. This description could be considered our first hint that these creatures that dress in their ritualistic garb These cultures that dress in their ritualistic garb of black and white stripes and floppy antennae are indeed channeling powerful primordial beings that treat mankind's foibles with irreverence and disdain. I will cover these deeply fascinating tribal rituals in greater detail in later chapters. For now, let's continue to discuss how the basic red-nosed, white-faced goon became a reality in the Western world. Some of the earliest European examples of a clown-like character were the buffoons of Greek theatre, created in the 5th century playwright Aristophanes. This stock collection of actions that classified the buffoon of the scene could be played by numerous figures and roles within the story. As a summary, he is a separate and distinct character, having no part in the action, other than the role of clown. He could have played a part earlier in the play though this wasn't always necessary. This proto-clown would break the fourth wall, talking to the audience as the poet's mouthpiece. The comic chorus on the sideline would make comments degrading certain characters, with no acknowledgement from the characters they berate. In the centuries that would follow Aristophanes, these buffoonish traits can be seen in later iterations of Greek comic drama, such as the New Comedy, the mime, and the satyr play. Though these characters and their clownish actions would not be relegated to stage sidelines, but be within the action, often as a glutton, known as the parasite. At the same time, Rome would be developing its own style of theatrical buffoons, who would entertain the rich and powerful. In fact, many of the phrases we associate with clown originate from the names of these many clown prototypes, such as Stupidus the mimic, or Morionus the moronic, and often deformed jester of lowly theatre. Other proto-jesters were the mimes and sanios of Rome, who could be hired to contribute entertainment at public festivals or a private banquet. They were famous for their ability to pull hilarious grimaces with their faces and body. It follows that this clown did not wear a mask, which is something very unique for the time. With the collapse of the Roman Empire and the rise of Christianity, it would seem much of these performers would soon only find work in private or more personal arrangements as courtly jesters for rulers or travelling entertainers all throughout Europe. Robert Lima, a Cuban-born American poet, literary critic, bibliographer, playwright, editor, biographer, and translator, and a professor at Emeritus of Spanish and Comparative Literatures at Pennsylvania State University, in his book titled Stages of Evil, Occultism in Western Theatre and Drama, he had this to say about the decline of these theatrical performances and the revival that introduced the first true clowns into the world. Quote, "It was largely through the Commedia dell'arte troupes, following on medieval pageants, that the secular theatre of Europe was reinstated after the long hiatus caused by the Church's condemnation of all manner of public entertainments owing to the excesses during the decline of Rome. In bringing popular theatre back to the populace, the Commedia dell'arte in effect revived the Western tradition of comedy, which can be born in ancient Greece and had lain moribund since the 5th century of the modern era. End quote. Through the Middle Ages, these unique funny men would find work in travelling out of Italy through all of Europe, taking part in street performances, which by the 16th century would come to be known as the Commedia dell'arte. Characterized by masked types, Commedia was responsible for the rise of the first female actresses and improvised performances based on sketches or scenarios. Characters' entrances and exits are scripted, but the majority of the show played off the audience's reactions to the antics of the performers. A special characteristic of Commedia is the lazzo, a joke or something foolish or witty, usually well known to the performers and to some extent a scripted routine. Another characteristic of Commedia is the pantomime, which is mostly used by the character Arlecchino, now better known as Harlequin. Subheading: Harlequin's demonic inspiration. Just going to take a quick break and have a drink there, 1 second. The characters of the Commedia usually represented fixed social types and stock characters, and were often performed outside on platforms or in popular areas such as the piazza, the town square. The genesis of Commedia may be related to Carnival in Venice, as the masquerade style of the characters is very similar. Of all the stock characters and their caricatured outfits, the ones of most interest for the origin of the clown are the zany characters, the comedic buffoons and rascals of the Commedia. These characters would slowly mould into the modern day clown and Harlequin of more modern interpretations, though Harlequin must be more closely examined first, before we finally get to the creation of the clown. Harlequin was introduced as a character by zany performer and Commedia dell'arte manager Zanganassa in the late 16th century. He was then definitely popularized by the Italian actor Tristano Martinelli in Paris in 1584, and became a stock character after Martinelli's death in 1630. But where exactly did this Harlequin come from, and why was it included in such a prominent lead figure in later performances? Robert Lima had this to say about the mysterious figure. Quote, Harlequin has very strong links to Northern European and other demonic beings from antiquity. Among them the Wild Man, the Green Man, Herne the Hunter, the Earl King, and the like. Both in this manner, acrobatic, sexual, devious, and in his dress, gnome-like, mask, patchwork costume, phallus and slapstick, Arlecchino showed traces of classical fertility deities and chthonic beings from Nordic climes. End quote. Now this is where the dark history of the modern clown character begins to take form, and how we can know for certain, before any further examination is done into the folk representations of the demonic, that the first iteration of the modern clown stock character during the medieval period is quite literally a representation of a Nephilim spirit. Lima continues to explain the dark origins of the Harlequin. Quote, the ancestral lineage of Arlecchino is both ancient and exotic. There are two principal veins in his bloodline, the first being the Central and Northern European barbaric culture, the second, the classical tradition of the Mediterranean. Each contributed disparate elements to the evolution of the complex figure that ultimately established itself in the forefront of the Commedia dell'arte scenarios. The oldest known references that relate to Arlecchino's barbaric lineage clearly show his ancestors to be demonic. The Histori Ecclesiasti, a Norman manuscript by Ordericus Vitalis from 1075 to 1143, is the earliest extant written reference to this context. The Anglo-Norman monk, who is its author, narrates a legend, perhaps based on a real-life incident, centering on a supernatural encounter experienced by a certain Gaucelin, a French monk, when he was returning late at night to his abode in Bonneval. near Chartres. The text refers to this being accosted by a hellish band. Clearly, the monk in the narrative had been beset by the family of Harlequin, a spectral host of relentless demons who marauded the countryside on certain winter nights, at the same time of the year as the carnival celebrations, rampaging through forests and valleys, destroying everything in their path. Guacelin recognised his assailants as the nefarious group that had come to be known among the populace as the Wild Horde, infamous beings out of a very widespread European folkloric tradition. The procession of the damned souls is led by a gigantic figure with a club, whose proper name was given as Harlequins. This will prove to be the earliest known written version of the name that would ultimately become Harlequin, Arlecchino. So, end quote. In the first vein, we can see that Harlequin slash Arlecchino is seen to derive from a demon named Helicins. This creature would later become manifest in Old French folklore and in literary texts in the 13th century under the name Harlequin. But the story doesn't end there, as these two mythological beings are said by Lima to be derivatives of an even older mythology, and something I have discussed at length in chapter 13 of this book. Quote, the antecedents of the medieval French demon evolved out of the Norse Teutonic mythology beings, who came to be known in Germany and adjacent areas as the Teufel Harlequin, or Helikin, or kin of Hel. Hel, or Hela, being the goddess of the Norse underworld. As Hel's consort, Elokong, variant Elvakong, was the male deity of the sacred alder or elder tree and the land of the dead. The mistranslation of the Danish Elokong gave Elkonig, king of the elves, as the Germanic saga. As Earl King, yet another variant, he was a German and Scandinavian spirit, or personified natural power akin to Odin, who led a band of ghostly riders across the night sky. In Middle English, he is Harleking, while King Hurle is the name of another mythical manifestation of the deity in England. Harlequin is the probable source of Herne the Hunter, the phallic-horned god, variously known in the British Isles under the names as the Green Man, or Jack in the Green, or Robin of the Wood, Robin Goodfellow, and Robin Hood. These are all manifestations of the King of the May, the ancient fertility deity whose phallus became the symbolic maypole featured in May Day celebrations held throughout Europe to welcome the rebirth and impregnation of Mother Earth in spring. The magical season of nature's fecundity was emulated in rituals of sympathetic magic that culminated in sexual coupling. Such fertility... sorry guys, 1 second. Sorry, guys, I'm just dealing with a crying toddler. Just bear with me. Okay, I'm going to try and finish this. So, where I left off then is we're talking about the maypole celebrations and the roots within this Harlequin character. And it says that obviously these rituals end in a sexual coupling, these fertility rituals. Such fertility figures in the British Isles and on the continent derive from a very early and perhaps Paleolithic being, generally known as the wild man. End quote. This wild man mythology and subsequent folk traditions will be examined at great length in section 3 of this book. But for now, it is extremely necessary to make clear that the character of Arlecchino was born from these European representations of Nephilim beasts that once roamed the lands. Lima also goes on to explain how the Wilderman tradition can be relayed back into the Greek and Roman mythologies, solidifying Harlequin's ancestral roots to be within both Europe and the Mediterranean. He then makes a very interesting link and possible cause for Harlequin's name to Middle Eastern stories of Cain and of the Old Testament. Okay, guys, I think I'm back on track. Sorry, I've got a very upset toddler upstairs and a very small house, so it's not easy to do this without any interruptions coming straight through the microphone. But I'll carry on reading the rest of this. There's not much left, so um, we're talking about the Wildman mythology, and basically I've explained. Well, this author Lima has explained how Harlequin's roots go all the way back to the Wildman. So he says, this Wildman mythology and subsequent folk traditions will be examined at great length in section 3 of this book, but for now it's extremely necessary to make clear that the character of Arlecchino was born from these European representations of Nephilim beasts that once roamed the land. Lima goes on to explain how the wild man tradition can be relayed back into Greek and Roman mythologies, solidifying Harlequin's ancestral roots to be both European and Mediterranean. He then makes a very interesting link and possible cause for Harlequin's name to Middle Eastern stories of Cain and the Old Testament. It might also be So, quote. It might also be conjectured further on the evidence in the 12th century Liborg Bala Eren, the book of the Taking of Ireland, which tells many Old Testament stories, including that of Lamech, Cain's grandson, shooting an arrow at a hirsute wild man who turns out to be Cain, that the name of the first felon may, with the Old English Old French Harley, be seen as Harlequin, the hairy Cain, and it could be a possible source of the eventual Harlequin or Harlequin. End quote. A fascinating connection to the antediluvian world and the human ancestor of all Nephilim creatures. Though I would be remiss if I didn't point out that this story of Cain's death at the hands of Lamech and Tubal-Cain was also in the book of Jasher, and was likely its original source. So just stopping there, if that wasn't clear what I just said, the Irish transliteration of this Old Testament story called Cain hairy, but that translated as Harlequin, which is interesting because that's obviously sounds like Harlequin and where the Harlequin tradition comes from. So could it be that the wild man representation was actually a representation of the first murderer and also the literal father of all Nephilim creatures, the grandfather of all Nephilim, because it was his daughters who mated with the fallen angels, with the sons of God. Interesting connection there. Anyway, carrying on. Much of Arlecchino's early performances on stage were as wild as his ancestry. Author of the Italian comedy, Pierre Duchart, quotes the writings of 17th century commedia performer Luigi Riccoboni when describing the original demeanour of Harlequin. Quote, the acting of the Harlequins before the 17th century was nothing but a continual play of extravagant tricks, violent movements, and outrageous rogueries. He was at once insolent, mocking, inept, clownish, and emphatically ribald. I believe that he was extraordinarily agile, and he seemed to be constantly in the air, and I might add that he was a proficient tumbler. End quote. Much like the fleet-footed and extremely strong Nephilim wild men which can be found all over the earth in folk tales and mythologies, Arlecchino was equally as unnaturally capable in movement. He was also a character with supernatural abilities, who could manipulate the scene in an almost magical and comical way, using the slapstick he inherited from his giant club-wielding ancestors. He could change the scene of the play in an instant by whacking the floor. Some have associated these qualities in him with the Roman deity Mercury, who flew between the world of the gods and that of man, often as a messenger. Mercury is based on an earlier Greek tradition, where the god was named Hermes, but even Hermes has a more ancient origin, as Lima explains. Quote, the Greeks, in turn, saw their deity as the manifestation of Thoth, the zoomorphic Egyptian god of learning, wisdom, and esoteric arts, naming him Hermes Trismegistus. Under his many guises, the ancient deity carried his identifying wand or scepter, the caduceus, with the two entwined serpents. Similarly, the Greek Dionysus, Bacchus to the Romans, had a thyrsus, a staff tipped with a pine cone and sometimes twined with ivy and vine branches. Both symbols of the authority of the deities have been held since ancient times to be emblematic of the male procreative member, the phallus. Male sexual potency is, therefore, paramount in the ancient worshippers' conception of these gods, as the frequent representations of the phallus shows. End quote. This perhaps is another explanation as to why Harlequin carries around his infamous slapstick, as a representation of the magical caduceus of Hermes and the phallic thyrsus of Dionysus. Harlequin would often use it to taunt the audience in a rambunctious and lewd manner, mimicking masturbation and penetration. Arlecchino's manner, therefore, was yet another remnant of his mixed deific and demonic origins. It mingled with elements out of classical Mediterranean tradition and barbaric Norse Teutonic folklore. Thoth, Hermes, and Dionysus on one hand, and the wild man Harlequin on the other. And that's where I'm up to. So there you go, guys. That's that chapter finished off so far. The next one will be talking about Joseph Grimaldi, and that is broken down into a few sections. So it's basically the fall of Harlequin and the rise of the clown. To summarize quickly, Harlequin's character stopped being the demonic, witty, fast-paced, grotesque character, and eventually became like a doting, lovesick fool. And the clown stock character, which obviously was a representation of a servant originally, began to take precedence and basically became the new Harlequin. And he started acting like Harlequin originally did. And then Clown became the main character of the pantomimes in Britain, thanks to Joseph Grimaldi and his ability to act like an insane acrobat on stage while dressed like the clown. So Harlequin eventually stopped being the main character like it was originally, and Clown became the main character. And Harlequin became something completely far removed from his origins, and the clown started to act like Harlequin originally did. So he took over to become the new, uh, Dionysus, Thyrsus wielding, tumbling demon character, basically. And then there was a costume change in the 1800s, which basically meant the clown would dress more psychedelic, a lot like the Nephilim creature that I've described. And Harlequin would start wearing more diamond-shaped kind of fancy clothing, basically, rather than the original rags that he would have worn. The clown originally just dressed like a plain white-robed servant, nothing special. But then suddenly he became this psychedelic monster in the 1800s, popularized by Joseph Grimaldi, the performer. But the costume was actually created by a Freemason called Charles Dividin. And that's what the next few pages are going to be explaining. But that's what I need to do, and that'll be chapter 14 finished. So there you go, guys, an insight to where the book's up to. I hope you enjoyed that little reading. Sorry for the interruptions. I have walked into my tiny hallway. There's a bit of an echo in here, but it means you can't hear my child crying in the background. That's the best I could do for you there. But let me just get this up quickly and see how you guys are doing. Red nose day is the comment I see straight away. Absolutely. Yeah, so the book's coming along nicely. Like I said, this isn't a joke. I know I'm talking about clowns, but I'm taking this extremely seriously. Okay, there's a legitimate history that needs to be explained here. I'm not in this to glorify or talk about the honking unicycle riding silliness of clowns. That's irrelevant. Okay, the clown is a symbol. Visually, it's a visual symbol to specifically represent demons, and that's what it's used for, and that is how it is used within the language of symbols utilized by secret societies. That's basically what I'm saying. That's what my theory is actually saying, okay? And all these representations you see on screen now, for example, from these folk traditions, these are literally representing ancestor spirits or the progenitors of the civilizations, or what they even call demons. These are the Nephilim that they're representing, and you'll find clown like features within them. This one, for example, is a specific one in Sri Lanka. This demon was known to basically be born of a woman who was essentially raped by some being. The king did not believe the child was his, what was his. Okay, his queen was pregnant, and he says that's impossible. I haven't had sex with you, basically. Okay, um, so he banishes her, and but what she gives birth to is this monster. So clearly she was raped by an angel or something, which gave birth to this Nephilim creature. This creature then goes on to eat thousands of people and spread diseases and create smaller monsters, which are these faces you can see to the left and right of him. Eventually, Buddha comes along and pacifies the beast, which is a strange story of basically evil defeating evil, a fallen angel defeating a Nephilim monster. Um, Yeah, it's a strange one. But all these folk representations all have their own features which donate clown-like imagery, which was incorporated into the modern version of a clown in the 1800s and onwards, and specifically and on purpose by Freemasons who likely saw these representations while traveling the world and incorporated them into their own symbol. And that's what my theory is proving, basically. So I have the evidence that the clown was invented by secret societies, and the specific imagery of a clown you see here, for example, was inspired by these folk traditions here that you see on screen. And it was people had these traveling Freemasons had seen these folk traditions that show stuff like this and melded it into their own Western symbol, which looks like this, basically. Because the whole point in the West was to keep it hidden. So they obviously caricatured it, emphasized it, made it outrageous so people wouldn't suspect that that's what the symbol meant. But here in Papua New Guinea, for example, they have the white skin and the red nose as a representation of their ancestors. These are representations of the Nephilim. They've likely traveled to Papua New Guinea, seen this, and then incorporated it into their own image of a clown, which we have in the West with the red nose and the white skin. Do you understand? But all these are representations of Nephilim creatures. Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, here's the cookery traditions of Europe. Okay, so they took that took features from it and added it to their own image. Sorry guys, I can't seem to get it to go through. There we go. Yeah, so obviously it seems like some Freemasons would have seen the Aboriginals' depictions of a Wangina and incorporated those features into their own versions of a Western clown. It's clowns look like them. That's my theory is a bit misleading with the title. It's not that the Nephilim looked like clowns. It's that clowns are a copy of the Nephilim. And look at this in India, for example. Polka dots on the cheeks in the painting, representing this particular deity called a Theum, which is a Nephilim deity. That's an AI image. So it's interesting, and my book is basically explaining all of this. It's an anthropological study more than anything. My book, it's not a joke book. It's a serious read, but it's going to be difficult initially to get people to take it seriously. I think until they start reading it, and yeah, but there you go. That's the book. If you don't know anything about what I'm doing in terms of my book, if you come from the Sam Tripoli podcast and you don't know much about my work, there it is in a nutshell for you guys, and there's a little sneak peek as well. So I hope you enjoyed that reading. I'm going to call it a night now, guys. It's been great. It's been fun. I've had a nice talk. It's been nice to catch up with you all. I will be back next week with another live show as usual. My entire week next week is booked up with podcasts. I have 4 or 5 podcasts next week, back to back every day. So I'm going to find it difficult to do anything, well, much in between. Like I said, I'm working on my Australian Wangina video, so that should be up for you guys sometime in the midweek. And I will be releasing the Tips for Truthers episode 2 as well on Monday. And I'll also try and get that talk about the spiritual realm to you guys as well, maybe later in the week. But that's the show for tonight, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been good catching up with everyone. Thanks to all the new listeners as well. Again, this is a fun little community we have here. I hope you've all made friends in the chat as well and shared some ideas. I'll be back next week. And as always, God bless.